Hi, BookTube, I'm Jackie's Lyric Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for my review of Karenina. I just finished this a few days ago, so I was procrastinating doing this review. And it wasn't because I didn't love it, because I absolutely love this book and its story. But I was a little apprehensive to do this review. Because it's a very famous book. And a lot of people care about it. And again, it's not that I don't love it. It's just I wanted to do the review justice. I don't even know if this is gonna be a good review either way. I'm gonna try my best and just talk about my honest feelings, which are positive. So this is a story about the lives of Anna Karenina and Konstantin Levin, and how their lives kind of run parallel to each other. So you have Levin, who is a farmer. He's kind of a stand-in for Tolstoy, I think, and he is in love with Kitty and proposes to her in the beginning of the book, but she rejects him. And he, meanwhile, Kitty, the reason why she rejected him is because she was in love with Count Vronsky. I was hoping he would propose to her, but he ends up falling in love with Anna Karenina, the sister of Oblonsky, who is married to Kitty's sister Dolly. And she is completely heartbroken when she realizes this, and goes kind of on a soul-searching journey in a way to, get over Vronsky, and with encouragement from her mother and her sisters. Well, actually sister, because the other sister, she's another sister, but she's barely involved in the story. Meanwhile, Anna Karenina is a woman she's married to a guy who's kind of a stick in the mud. He's not a great guy as far as, connecting with his family, taking care of them. And she ends up having an affair with Vronsky, and then she gets pregnant with Vronsky's child and is forced to tell her husband that she's having an affair, and she tries to get a divorce from him, but he won't let her. But he will let her go off with her lover and be with him, but he gets their son. So like I said, this is very much a story about life, and the life choices our two main characters make, especially when it comes to love and marriage. And they are both very complicated characters that are very fascinating to read about. Although there were times when I preferred Levin and his story over Anna's. And spoiler, he does win over Kitty in the end. Much to his surprise, actually, because in the story he tries to move on from her and tries to forget about her, but he can't. And he focuses on farming, so there are a lot of paragraphs about farming, which can be very informative, but also very boring. Like, even though I loved his character, he was such an endearing, sweet character, a bit insecure at times, but he really cared and was very passionate. He also cared about politics and wanted to be on equal footing with the peasants, which unfortunately, though, they did not trust him, so that got really complicated for him. But he did get a lot involved in politics quietly. He even wanted to write a book. Meanwhile, you have Anna's story where she's having this affair, and then even though her husband lets her be with Vronsky, and she lives a great life, she slowly over time spirals out of control and loses control over her sanity, and is even doing opium, and she is just so depressed over the loss of her son, and she can't bring herself to love the daughter she had with Vronsky. And my theory about that is that she kind of blames her daughter on the situation, because of course that was her getting pregnant with the Vronsky's Vronsky's child, forced her to come out and tell her husband what was going on. And then when he told her, he was like, okay, I'll let you be with him, but I get the kid. And he's not even a great dad. He's very, very distant. He cares about his son's education, which is very important, but not so important. But he also needs to love his son, give him affection, spend time with him, and he doesn't. In fact, the only person that spent time with that kids other than the servants is this woman Lydia, who is Princess Lydia, who is a Russian aristocrat who's in love with Karenina and decides to be a mother to this kid. Even tells this kid that his mommy is dead, which that bugged me, because even if what Anna did was messed up, like was wrong and morally wrong, I think this woman, and I get that she's in love with Karenina and feels bad for him. It was not fair what happened to him, because we end up realizing he's not the worst guy in the world. As the story progresses, they kind of feel sorry for him. But like, he, at the same time, he doesn't spend time with his kid, and then allows this woman to be a mother of this kid, telling him his biological mother, whom he loved, was dead. And then you find out later when we meet him again, when we meet the boy again, he's a little bit older. You find he is ashamed of his emotional reaction to his mom, and it's just that just annoyed me so much, because it was like, okay, now you're gonna turn this kid into a robot. You're gonna turn him into a junior version of you, who thinks, oh, showing emotions is bad. It makes you seem weak and too soft. Only women do that. Only women show emotions, even though men have hearts, they don't show emotion. And Anna definitely was someone I got very frustrated with. But I also felt sorry for her, that she becomes slowly over time so paranoid and distrustful of Vronsky, and loses herself and loses her, and just cannot connect with her daughter. But while 11, and she's slowly going, and a lot of people describe this as, a lot of videos I watched after I read the book, seeing other people's thoughts, what I found interesting was, well, 11 is his life is going well, and he's going up in the world. She is slowly going down in the world. So we see, because society very much judges her when she leaves her husband, because getting divorced is everybody's business in this society, and everyone has an opinion. She wants to go out and have fun and not be cooped up in the house, which I don't blame her. I feel bad for her in that sense. But then when she goes, everyone's gossiping on her and whispering and staring at her when she goes to the opera. And you always feel sorry for her, because everyone is constantly judging her, and when it's none of their business and nothing to do with them, but this is a time when that was the big deal. It's just like how we are with celebrities. We're obsessed with them, and whenever they do anything, we have to have an opinion on it. Especially if they're one that we really like. And they're just like, so I definitely feel bad for her. Even though I just got also impatient with her at times and very frustrated with her character. But I also got very frustrated with Levin too. Both him and Kenny were very insecure. And it drove me nuts. It's like, there was times when it felt like they didn't trust each other 100%. Like, right before they get married, he thinks, oh, she's only doing this because she has to. Because she feels like, oh, I gotta get a husband. And he's like, I'm gonna call this off. He actually goes to her, which, of course, traditionally, the groom is not supposed to see the bride before the wedding. And so he goes to her and talks to her and is like, oh, I'm getting you out of this. And she is so upset about it. And, like, I don't, because she doesn't want to she loves him now. She's in love with him now, wants to marry him. And the good news is they actually communicate and they talk about, which is nice, is the fact that them as a couple, they actually talk and they communicate and express their opinions and feelings on the situations, and they work well together. They have a very non-toxic, healthy relationship despite their insecurities and distrust, and sometimes not always, worry that the other doesn't feel as strongly as they do. So there's a little bit of distrust, but they work on it. That's what you're supposed to do in marriage. You're supposed to work on it and communicate with each other. So that's why sometimes I kind of, their story is very much a reprieve, a relief, a release of tension. from all the soap opera drama of Anna Karenina's story. Now, as far as the secondary characters, like, I did not like Oblonsky, Anna's brother. I couldn't stand him. He was that character that you might party with him or drink with him, and he has some interesting philosophies, but he was cheating. In the beginning of the book, you find out that he's cheating on his wife, and that's how Anna ends up where they are, is because she is trying to put him and Dolly back together, put them back together, because he is a mistress now. But you gotta give Dolly the props, because she does everything in her power to hold this family together, because of course as a woman she doesn't have the power, as much power, and of course she's not going to abandon her children, and she can't take them away from the father, so she holds them together and stays loyal despite the fact he doesn't deserve it, and takes care of the children, and she envies, Anna's freedom and independence very much, because she doesn't have that. She cannot afford to do that. But then, of course, as she sees Anna's life in the situation she's in, she realizes, oh, actually, I'm not. My life could be worse. And at least I'm holding it together and keeping my family together. Like, I still have my children. Now there's a lot of politics discussions and lots of, like I said, a lot of farming talk. There's a lot of political talks, and there's scenes with the men, and they're having political discussions. So I found that really interesting. Now I couldn't go into detail and talking about specific things, but I always thought those scenes were very intriguing. Even though I gotta admit I didn't understand everything. Now, I was frustrated with the female characters in a sense that they did not get to do a lot. They're mostly very competitive with each other and very insecure with each other. Like, Anna and Kitty are so, like, insecure when it comes to each other. Like, there's one part when, Levin meets Anna for the first time, and he really likes her. He finds her really beautiful. He does feel sorry for her and enjoys her company, and realizes, okay, I gotta admit this to my wife that I did this, because he knows that his wife is very insecure when it comes to Anna. And her history with Anna is not good. Is not the best. And he tells her, and all of a sudden she's like, oh my god, you're in love with her. And I think he can enjoy her company without being in love with her. But I do think, I imagine it is hard if you're married to someone and they have a partner that's a friend of the opposite sex. They talk how great they are and stuff. I imagine, that's really hard to do. And I guess Kitty's probably not the only woman who feels that way. That can get insecure and concerned about her husband's having a female friend. They talk how great she is. But yeah, and like I said, there was a little scene right before the wedding when he tries to call it off because he thinks, oh, she might not really be as in love with me as I am with her. So now, like I said, Tolstoy uses this very much as a sounding board, so there's a lot of discussions about, like I said, politics and farming, and his philosophies on life, and even in the last section, there's, like, Levin has having a crisis of faith. Like, he was an atheist, and he doesn't believe in God, but in this culture, before you get married, or maybe it's in the Catholic religion, you gotta go to confession before you get married. So, and Kitty has very strong faith, strongly believes in God, and so he slowly over time eventually comes around to believing in God. Which I do think I have heard that Tolstoy himself did have a crisis of faith too. Levin is very much like he is Tolstoy in disguise. And his marriage apparently is reflected. Tolstoy's marriage to his wife is reflected in Levin and Kitty's marriage. But yeah, this is really good. It's very long, and there's a lot of parts that can seem kind of boring. Like, it does get slower, and it does slow down a little bit and get kind of tedious in the middle. But I mean, this was published serially, so it's like you gotta keep your audience interested. So you gotta, and I feel like what was interesting to people back then might not be interesting to people today. But anyway, I feel like this is really good, a very thought-provoking novel, very much worth the read. Although I will say, it's not for everybody. Like I said, there are slow parts, and there's parts that might not interest everybody, and there's not a lot of action going on. It's just the day-to-day life of these people, and during a very tumultuous time in Russia. But yeah, I enjoyed it personally, and I think there definitely is a divide between people that have read this book and end up not liking it, and the people who read it and love this book. So, yeah, that is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bell notification below if you want to be notified about my latest videos. And I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!